Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's live show with myself, Shannon Martel, and my good friend and dear colleague, Onnie Michalsky. She's a self-care coach, and I've invited her here today to talk about an all-important topic with generating around self-care and the importance of self-care. And as you're just tuning in, I'm going to kind of do all of the technical checks to make sure that we are streaming live into the Facebook group, the Intuitively Aligned Boss Lady community. And if you're just tuning in, go ahead and say hello. Let me know that you can hear us and see us okay. And we will get going. Okay, I see that we are live. Yay, the tech is working. Tuning in, go ahead and say hello and let us know that you can hear us okay. And we will get going. So again, I just want to welcome you and thank you so much for joining. And if you have any questions or comments as we're going through, go ahead and feel free to drop them into the chat. A little bit about StreamYard. You want to go ahead and allow StreamYard access to your profile. That way we can go ahead and see your beautiful face and know who you are, and let us know where you're tuning in from too. We always love to know tuning in from. I'm tuning in from sunny Florida. Well, it may not be so sunny today. It's a little rainy out. Onnie, where are you tuning in from?
I am tuning in from Montana, which is not sunny at all. We've got snow on the ground and it's really cold.
Oh my goodness. It's beautiful though. Beautiful.
Opposite ends here.
Yeah. Well, very good. So if for those of you who are just joining again, hello and welcome to our group. And today's topic, if you have seen any of the posts or the group event per se that I set up, we're going to be talking about just, kind of getting a pulse on where you're feeling right now. Are you feeling maybe a little bit of stress? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Perhaps you're feeling like you're on the edge of entrepreneurial burnout. It's such an important topic to be able to have the opportunity to discuss, because practicing self-care, and a lot of, I can remember back, years ago, I really didn't even, you heard the buzzword self-care, but I really didn't know what it meant, nor did I take the time to actually practice and really pour back into myself. And because of that, it did really catch up with me. And it's important to know that it's not, just something to practice when you're sick, right? It's important to practice on a daily basis to really, as Onnie says, the topic of this is the 5 pillars of self-care, and fill your bucket so it overflows. And that, I just love that title. I love the meaning behind it. And I'm excited for Onnie to be able to jump in and just really share with us what her experience is with that and how she can better support each of you in this community. So a little bit about myself and my experience with burnout. Really kind of was leading up for a time period in 2017 is when I like to say the dam broke and everything was kind of caught up, and a lot of chronic illness overtook my life, resulting from chronic infections. I had sinus infections all the time, experiencing significant back pain, and then started experiencing severe migraines, and wound up having to go on disability. And really, life caught, I wasn't listening to all those warning signs that I'm sure Onnie will be discussing today that my body was sending me. I just kept, putting it off and, running full steam ahead in my, corporate career and taking care of the family. And as a single mom, I was, trying to take care of raising a baby and also being a grandmother, so I was trying to do all these things, and self-care was the last thing on my bucket. It was the last thing on my plate, and it really caught up with me. So the one thing I would impart with you today, and something I celebrate, is I am on day 967 of my self-care routine, and I can really be a testament today to say it has radically changed my life. And my hope for all of you is that you can take something away from today's training that you can implement in your own life that will help you start moving away from feeling that daily stress and overwhelm, and those experiences really, really lead to that burnout, discontentment that you may be feeling and if you're in your life. And just kind of let us know if you're just jumping on. See, somebody's jumping on the chat now on the face stream, or the face stream, the live stream. know who is there so we can welcome you. And again, if you have questions along the way, go ahead and drop them in the chat and I will pop them up on the broadcast stream. And as Onnie goes along, we will be able to address those for you. So without further ado, I would like to again welcome Onnie Michalsky. Sorry. To our live stream. I'm so excited to have you here today, and the floor is yours. So, Onnie, can you just tell us, give us a little brief introduction and tell us about you, and go for it. Just go for the
Shannon,
in the love.
Yes, it is an honor to be here and to be serving the intuitively boss ladies. No, there's a word there that I'm missing.
Intuitively aligned,
intuitively aligned boss ladies. Okay, so I thank you and I feel honored to be here. So I'm Onnie Michalsky. I get that name screwed up all the time. I married into it, but I'm living in Montana, and I am a self-care coach. I wasn't always a self-care coach, and neither have I always practiced self-care. And I have my dam broke in 2011. Well, actually 2010, when I had our fifth child. We have 6 kids. And so right after the birth of our 5th child, we had just moved and the dam broke. I like how you put that. I was, just overwhelmed. I was doing everything. I was doing it all. We were homeschooling. We just bought a business. I got involved in the community. I thought that I had to do all of this stuff in order to be that good wife or that good mom that, I grew up just with these beliefs. And that's, a lot on the mindset and everything. But I'll get into that in a little bit. But so through the past 10 years, I really discovered that power of self-care and learning to bust through the belief that it's okay, that it's not selfish to take care of yourself, that in fact, it benefits all of those around you when you turn that focus in and start filling up your own bucket. I started showing up as a better mom and as a better wife, and in all of the hats that I wore when I allowed myself to take care of myself. And Shannon, you mentioned that, self-care is a buzzword and you've heard of it, but the chances are you probably thought of self-care like as massages and bubble baths and all of these luxury activities. But self-care can be that, but it is so much more. And self-care really, let's just define it. It is an intentional activity that is aimed at refilling or recharging you. And I truly believe that we need to do self-care every day. Now, Shannon, I love that you said that you had an exact number, 957 days, or how many days?
967. Yes. Well, let me just share a little bit of tidbit on how I know that number.
I'm really curious.
Yes, I came across a book by Hal Elrod called The Miracle Morning.
Yeah.
And it radically changed my life. And there's a practice in there called Lifesavers that Hal describes this book. And it's pieces or modalities that you follow every single day, whether you have an hour to devote to yourself in the morning or you have 10 minutes. I'm sure you will divulge more of those things, but 967 days ago, one of the practices that I started was journaling. And it's a gratitude journal where I list 5 things that I'm grateful for, or more, or less, of time, but every day, and what I'm grateful for. And it really has helped to not only shift my vibration and give you all those good feelings, but it also, as my daughter-in-law pointed out at one point, think of the memoir you're leaving. If those journals ever get out and I could leave down to my children and family memories and things that I've experienced over the years. So that's how I kind of track. And it's just amazing to see the progress too over time. So.
Yeah, The Miracle Morning, for the viewers that are watching this, I definitely recommend that book. I read that book probably about a year or 2 ago, and it did shift the way I was spending my time doing my self-care every morning, which is a big thing because I do do the majority of my self-care in the morning. Now, my coaching business is like I work with moms, but all of the self-care concepts that I'll talk about today and that I talk about in my programs can apply, to anybody, whether you're a mom, dad, single, married, old, young, like really just filling your bucket and working on being intentional. That's what we're about. Like that is, I like to use that metaphor of the airplane. And you're on an airplane and the flight attendant says, put on your mask. If the plane's going down, aka burnout, you need to start even before that, with self-care. But you put on your mask before you can assist anyone around you because you're of no use if you're passed out in the seat. And so self-care serves as that mask. And by putting it on, you are going to benefit all of those around you and show up better in all of your hats. So when you're doing self-care, go ahead, Shannon.
I was going to say, in the group here with the Intuitively Aligned Boss Lady community, we have a little over 500 beautiful queens in our community. One thing, as I was talking with Onnie about that before we jumped on the broadcast today, is that a lot of the members in this community, as they entered into the community and kind of found me and kind of found the work that I do, I had prior to our broadcast today, I initially started out in my coaching career helping and coach around burnout. So many of the women in this group, be it their moms and their stay-at-home moms, or their moms and they have their own business, they're entrepreneurs, have experienced or are experiencing various stages of, whether it's chronic illness or depression or burnout or the beginning stages of burnout. And one thing that, why I thought it was important to bring Onnie today is not only to talk about this, because sometimes, and I recognized it myself, Onnie, is that as I moved from my corporate career and really went down my self-care journey, even though I was practicing a lot of these practices, as I started onto my journey as being an entrepreneur and starting a business, I found that I started kind of relapsing back and forth into this stress and this overwhelm and the beginning stages of burnout. And I had to really look at that and peel the onion back. And that's why I'm so excited to talk about this today, because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm now doing the work that lights my soul on fire, that I'm passionate about, and I know is my purpose-driven work. Why am I starting to feel stressed and overwhelmed and burnout again? So it's important just to highlight that it's not just about the career, right? It's not just about the kind of work that you're doing that can feel like it's soul draining and soul sucking. That can still follow you in any avenue in life, no matter what kind of work that you're doing, because it's you. It's the way you process your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, all of those things. So again, whether you are a mom, whether you don't have children, or you're in a corporate career and looking to transition into entrepreneurial journey, this is for you. This training is for you, no matter where you are on the scale. And the other thing that I just wanted to kind of point out too, and it's interesting because I pulled an oracle card today that talks about breaking the chain of ancestral patterns and rewriting the future. And that's the other thing that I feel, and I experienced it in my own life with my daughter, is a lot of the illnesses that I was experiencing, I started seeing my daughter experience them. Yes. So kind of looking at patterns and things that, like, a lot of the things I had, my mom had, kind of looking from generation to generation, or where some of these thoughts or ideas or things that are kind of carried on from generations to current and passing on. I recognized in myself that I had the power, and so do you, on this live stream or catching the replay, have the power to learn more about where all of this is coming from and be able to shift it and change it, so it not only impacts your life, but it impacts the lives of future generations to come. So I'll turn the floor back over to you, Onnie, because I think it's just important things to kind of recognize that it's, sometimes we can look outside of ourselves to our career or to things experiencing, in our environment that we feel is, the cause, and kind of blame it on those types of, just quit my job and get another job, it'll get better.
Right.
And I've learned that that's not always the case. So.
Right. And, that's the thing, like kind of seeing what you're telling yourself, that self-talk and questioning it, because we've come to believe something for so long that we no longer question it, and kind of shifting that perspective, taking a step back and looking and being like, okay, what's going on here? Something needs to change. And when it comes down to it, we can only change ourselves, right? Like we have to look at what we can control. And that's usually just what we, it lies in us. That responsibility lies on us. And so that's, I like how you said that about the ancestral, breaking the chain for real.
Breaking the chain. Right.
Yeah.
And I think the exciting thing is knowing that you have the ability to break the chain.
The power.
The power is within your hands. And that in itself is empowering.
Yes.
Once you really understand that and become, gain that awareness of that, of how empowering that is, to know that no matter the diagnoses that you've been given. That's another thing. I was given a lot of diagnoses, even back, really rewinding to 2013, I was given a fatal diagnosis and told that I only had 2 to 5 years to live without possibly needing a heart and lung transplant. And all of those diagnoses, I would say today, that's not present in my body. That was, and to give hope and inspiration to our viewers today is to know, like, no matter what diagnosis you've been given, whether it was today or yesterday, it's a snapshot, ladies. Yes. It's a snapshot of where you were at that time. It doesn't have to be your truth going forward. And once I realized that and understood that and chose to focus on healing rather than all the diagnoses I was given, that's when I started noticing things in my life start to shift.
Sure. Yep. You make a great point there, Shannon. Like, your diagnosis does not define you, right? Like it could be comforting to like finally have that name to your symptoms, but it can also keep you trapped. And it's your choice which one you're going to choose, which path you're going to go down. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, and self-care actually has been shown to, decrease even getting sick or illnesses, when you start, and not just your physical health. We're talking about, I say about the 5 pillars, and I have yet to even talk about what those 5 pillars are, but it really is more than just character or just tending for your physical health, right? You've got, here it is, the 5 pillars. You've got your physical, you've got your emotional / mental. I put them together. And then you've got your spiritual, your intellectual, and your social. And focusing on those 5 pillars. And you mentioned Miracle Morning, which I love. And that really does tend to each of those 5 pillars. I'm trying to think. Social is more like focusing and tending to your relationships. And the savers, well, they're gonna influence. They're going to influence your relationship for sure. And so we can safely say that the 5 pillars or the savers actually correspond to those pillars. But, focusing on each of those pillars are going to create a lot, like they're going to decrease your likelihood of getting sick or being ill. That's for sure. And, you mentioned all of this, you meant, well, not all of them, but you mentioned some of the signs to burnout. And one thing that you mentioned that kind of hit me was when you're starting out in a business, or, you feel that you're giving all your, like, this is your passion. It kind of sounds like a paradox, like the fact that you are on the road to burnout. But when you think about it, when you are so passionate about something, and I mentioned this before we went live, I have a hard time finding that balance, like saying, okay, I'm done working for the day because I love it so much. My husband's like, you're always on the computer. But I'm like, I can't help it. Like, it's because I am passionate about it. And I want to share it with, about self-care, because I go into these groups with other moms and somebody will ask about self-care, and 99% of the respondents or the comments are like, I don't practice it. What's self-care? Like, and so I want to share my passion. And so it is hard for me to find that balance. But that is exactly why it's important to create those boundaries and practice self-care when you are an entrepreneur, because you are spending so much time and energy and focus on building your business that you need to be in control of that. You need to be able to shut down the computer or do something that doesn't involve work, because it may not seem like work when you enjoy it so much. And so that was, I found in 2017, from 2011 to 2017, I had, I was spending a lot of time. Like I had lost 70 pounds. I was exercising. I became a group fitness instructor, right? I took all of like the things that like doing it all in 2011. Like I totally switched it, and it was still like doing a gazillion things, running from place to place, but the focus had changed. But then in 2017, I had got my master's in counseling and decided to go back to work. I needed to get 2,300 supervised hours to get licensed in the state of Montana. And in 2017, I decided to go that route. And I found when I had to, it was a huge adjustment, to say the least, like just for my family and for me, but I had to redefine what self-care looked like. And that was key. Instead of abandoning it altogether, like I would have quickly burned out had I not readjusted. And that's just to say that self-care is defined differently for everyone. Like for some people, that intellectual self-care might be doing jigsaw puzzles or learning, taking classes. But for somebody else, that may mean, doing like, well, let's just say taking classes, like a writing class might be intellectual self-care for someone. A mechanics class might be something for somebody else, or getting out there and, praying, going to church, that may be spiritual self-care for somebody, but another person that might be just doing yoga or practicing meditation or just connecting with that wider world. And so it's going to be defined differently for everyone. So
Onnie, I think it's also important to talk about like how you went from like doing all of the things in, one career to then moving into this new space. It was very exciting and invigorating, but you found like it was hard to put it down. Like you just kept wanting to keep working on it because it feels exciting, right? And I found myself in the same thing. And, over the summer, especially when COVID hit and we didn't have like, even before the summer, when March timeframe, like the kids homeschooling, we really didn't have a schedule per se. I found myself up at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, still working on my business. But looking at that, and when I started having some more health issues and looking at that, like even though, and maybe you can touch more on this, even though it felt exciting and I was enjoying what I was doing, if you kind of look at the balance scale of all the areas that you're talking about, like your intellectual and your social and your physical, that balance scale was very uneven because I was focusing so much into the one area that I was neglecting the other areas. And over time I started, even though like, again, like I might have, been up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and I didn't have to get up at 5, but still the sleep was taking a toll because that wasn't my body's normal sleep pattern.
Yes.
So that out, that although it felt exciting and I felt like I was working on things that I was passionate about, it still then kind of generates its own little issues, when you're doing that and not balancing out the scales per se.
Yes. Yep. You're right. If you're spending so much time working and building a business, and yes, you're excited about that, but you see that your relationships are going to suffer, right? Like you need to be able to tend to each of those areas. You don't, even especially with COVID, the spiritual, like being able to connect, and the social, there was a lot of those pillars that were affected by that. And so that takes, finding that balance again. And I know there's a lot of talk about balance, like that it's bull, or like, like you never be able to find it. It really is putting where your focus is. And if you see one of those areas, or, suffering or dwindling,
Mhm.
you want to be able to put your energy and focus onto that, because to bring yourself back up to, you need relationships. That's how we grow.
Mhm.
And we need to be able to connect with the larger world. We need to, stimulate our brain with some intellectual self-care
Mhm.
and know what we're feeling and identify and challenge those beliefs that we were talking about. That's your spirit,
Mhm.
that's your emotional and mental self-care. And so being able to focus on all of them, and even physical self-care. When I went back to work in 2017, I had been, like I said, I was teaching, I was instructing Zumba and kickboxing, and I was doing, and when I went back, when I went back to work, like that wasn't
It makes me
happening.
tired thinking about it.
Yes, I know. It makes me I had to figure out, like, how am I going to do like physical self-care? Like, how am I going to get enough sleep and drink enough water and get enough movement in my day when I'm 8, 9 hours a day at this new job, like sitting at a desk listening to people through counseling. Like, it was just, I had to be intentional about it. And so
Mhm.
that's what it is. It's being intentional, because if you're not intentional about it, it's not going to happen. I'm a big planner, and I believe, like, if you don't have a plan, what is it? You fail to plan, you plan to fail. Self-care is the
Yeah.
same, which brings me, like, I hear time and again, nobody has time for self-care. Well, all of this other stuff like work and your family, like, that you're going to take care of all of this stuff, because that's just what we do. That's being a woman. That's what we do. And so do it in the morning, which I know you're saying about the miracle morning. That is an untapped time that we have. And whether it's 10 minutes, 30 minutes, trust me, if you do 10 minutes and psych yourself up, like, okay, I'm just going to do 10 minutes, decide on what you're going to do. And I have a list of different self-care activities, ways to fill your bucket, decide on what you're going to do. And I promise you, you will want more than 10 minutes. It'll inspire you.
Yeah.
Like, once you start feeling what that full bucket feels like and how it affects everybody around you and how you feel, you're going to want more than 10 minutes. But it's like, I used to run and I'd be like, okay, I just need to make it to the stop sign. Knowing in my mind, like, just trying to tease myself, like, just to the stop sign. And then once I got to the stop sign, I could keep going to the next stop sign until I ran like
Yeah.
whatever mile. Same thing with self-care.
So, I
Just
mean, let me ask you, like, why are the mornings important to practice self-care?
one thing is because all of that other stuff is going to be taken care of. It's what we do. And so giving yourself that moment to mentally and physically prepare to face the day is super important. You have a clearer mind. You can set your
Mm.
intentions for the day. We went away this past weekend, and I woke up in the morning with my kids, and the very first thing, like, I usually will wake up an hour before, and we were staying at this Airbnb in the mountains. I think it was my 11-year-old woke me up. Mom, can we play Sorry? Because they had all these board games, and I'm like, oh my god,
Not even awake yet.
early. This is why I wake up before them, because it was like I was sleeping and then I had to be on. When
Yeah.
I wake up earlier, I have that moment of transition that's just for me. I love the peacefulness. I like just love that quietness and like the dim lights. I drink my coffee. I do some stretching, journaling, meditating. I made a vision board so I could do my visualization, all of those things. And I can't do them with kids around. It just doesn't work. Like, my kids want me to play Sorry. So
I think too, like, comes from that is, like, when you first wake up, there's less vibration going on in regards to, like, already worrying about all of the things. And even if I rewind a little bit and think about, like, before I started my miracle morning routine, I would wake up, the first thing I noticed was pain when I was experiencing the chronic migraine period. And I would stumble to the coffee pot, make my coffee, and I would then go pick up my phone, and I would sit in bed for like scrolling social media. And I really dreaded, it wasn't just dreading Mondays. I was really like dreading in the day, then I would force myself to like then go race to get ready, race to get my daughter to school, all the things, and I would get to work and I would just, I felt this sense of overwhelm with all the things on my plate that I had to accomplish. And when I switched into learning about the importance of self-care and really filling those buckets first and really understanding what happens when you immediately start looking at social media and you're kind of reacting, you're in that reactive mode, kind of like the kid, hey, mom, play sorry, and you haven't given yourself that time to really think and plan and dream and get yourself into this elevated space. You're more just kind of reacting to everything that is thrown at you. I switched to doing the same thing. Like I wake up, the first thing I do is drink water to really hydrate your body, stretch, go get my coffee, and then come into this period. And I tell you, like an hour, I want 2 hours. Like once you start doing this beautiful, sweet time just for yourself to do those things, it doesn't have to be. That was the other thing. I was with the lifesavers. I love the lifesavers, but I was not even realizing making it like mandatory and like this checklist. I didn't do all those things on the checklist. Then I kind of got into where this perfectionism piece saying like, you didn't do everything. Like, you're not as to where now I have more of a flow and more than ever now, the thing, and it's taken me a while to really like slow the thoughts down, but that time of meditation, if you did one thing every day, of just giving yourself time for silence or listening to a guided meditation for like 20 minutes, just to really drop into your body and really, focus on how you feel. And so a mantra I say every day throughout the day is it's good to feel good. It's good to feel good. And everything is always working out for me. And I always have everything I need now, and it just really helping to bring you back into your body, into the present time of now. And I think that's probably the piece that I could offer to you is just learning how to be in the presence of now, not, worrying and obsessing about all the things that are on that to-do list and all of those things that, will take care of themselves. Like you said earlier, it will take care of themselves, but we really have to like fill our cup first and give ourselves that time, because it does, and I know you'll talk about this, and it just talking about like the positive endorphins, those good endorphins that it starts releasing in your body that really help to ease your body, ease inflammation and pain and all of those things. That I don't wake up in pain anymore. That's not the first thing that happens anymore. So while you may not see it overnight, while you may not feel like you can quiet your mind in meditation, I don't even think that's a bad thing anymore, because it just means that your mind is giving you a lot of, showing you what you like and showing you what you want less of, that that's a really time that you can start to hear your thoughts and hear your intuition and your own internal guidance system kind of give you some messages of what is going on for you and what that next right step is. So I think that is important of understanding, of giving yourself that time before you start taking care of everyone else. Like you said earlier, putting that oxygen mask on yourself before you can help others is really, really vital. And the other thing I would love for you to spend some more time on is talking about, you mentioned you're intentional with that, and maybe kind of talk more into what being intentional about that means, and not maybe just even in your morning routine, but how do you carry that throughout the day?
So one of the pieces of advice that I've given people before, when especially if they're just starting out, like they're not used to turning that focus on yourself, is to plan a date for yourself, just as you would, do a doctor's appointment and you write it on your calendar. Do the same thing with yourself. Write that on the calendar and treat it as a non-negotiable. Whether you have, I use the Passion Planner, so I've got my date, like my hours kind of blocked out. That morning hour, like, start with the morning. If that's somewhere that you feel is an untapped, like is a time that if you're so busy during the day and you want to start practicing self-care, that morning hour is the time that, is a good time to start. But even if it's right after dinner, or attaching it to something that you already do, instead of saying like, oh, 3 p.m., I'm going to have time for myself, right? Like start because you want to make it a routine. And a routine is really just a string of habits. And so creating, like, say 10 minutes after lunch, I am going to make myself a cup of tea. And right, like this is being intentional because you're already choosing what you're going to do. You're not just going to say, I'm going to do self-care today. You've got to plan. You've got to think of what it is you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and then write it down. Writing it down, putting it in black and white, you're 95% of the way there of making it happen just by writing it down. But making that date with yourself, deciding what activity you're going to do. Say, so after lunch, I'm going to make a cup of tea and I'm going to sit at my kitchen counter and I'm just going to, you don't even have to write. You can just sit and enjoy. And I like how you mentioned the mindfulness, right? Living in the moment. Experience that tea. Like think about, like, how does it smell? How does it taste on your lips? Practice this mindfulness technique by using all of your senses, focusing on this cup of tea, because the more you do this, the more it's going to become natural to you. The more you're going to enjoy those moments that make up your day. And so this is what I'm talking about when I say be intentional. By making that date with yourself, making the plan, thinking about what you're going to do and when you're going to do it, and writing it down. This is, and as you said about, you were strict on doing those savers in the morning. And I think I was too. After I read that book, I was so inspired that I was like, before that, my mornings looked like I was walking on the treadmill, watching TED Talks, and then I would like journal some, right? But then after reading that book, I'm all about TED Talks. I went through a stage there. But after that, reading that book, I was like, oh, I'm going to do these savers. Like, he researched all these successful people and I just started my business. It was like, it was on. And I was the same way. But at this point, I am very flexible. Like I've got my stack of books that I bring out on the couch, and my coffee's already done in the morning. Like I kind of adjusted it. And some mornings, like this morning, I went to the gym. I didn't even do any of this stuff, but I had that drive too. I had that back, and I got up and I was like, I'm going to just go to the gym this morning. I sat in the sauna, so I adjust. I'm not that strict. Most mornings I do follow like my usual stack of books that I work on each morning. But other than that, just being flexible. But if the savers, I think the savers is a great place to start, because it gives you exact prescription of what you should do or what you can do.
Well, and just to expand on that a little bit more, and the lifesavers I'll break down for you because I know we've mentioned it a lot through this broadcast, but how, as he, like Onnie mentioned, went and researched like all top performers, throughout our industry or throughout the world, honestly, was looking at like what things did they do in the morning to help them be successful? Like what were did they meditate? Did they practice affirmations? Did they practice visualizations? We found that there was a common thread through all of these very highly, experienced and successful entrepreneurs or people in the world that did practice some sort of morning routine. So what he did is took a look at and said, well, why just pick one? Why not blend them all, into really supersize it is the word that's coming to mind right now, but really supersize that morning routine and really get the maximum impact and benefit out of it. Is an acronym that his wife helped him create for this, and the S is for silence or meditation, the A is for affirmations, the V is for visualization, the E is for exercise or movement, R is for reading, and S is a fancy word, scribing, but it's just a fancy word for journaling. So it was this combination of these lifesavers, and I love acronyms because it's an easy way to remember what's in that routine. But what I invite you to look at is, and I think this is, for high performers or high achievers, and I know like as being an entrepreneur, you are one of these, you are this, like you want to do it all too, right? You want to do and to have the most success, to really maximize every opportunity and do all of the things. But that can also be to your detriment too, because like the saying goes, sometimes less is more. And I also recognizing the power of one, because when you keep adding more and keep adding more and keep adding more and trying to, like, again, juggle all the balls, that's where you can start to see your anxiety levels going up and your stress levels going up. So sometimes
you need some white space.
Right. You're trying to do all of those things and check all those boxes can be to your detriment, not to your benefit. So I think it's important to kind of look at that. And hey, Jessica, I see Jessica's just joining in. So I think sometimes that can be to your detriment, and just allowing yourself and intuitively tap into your body. And that's why I named this group the Intuitively Aligned Boss Lady Community, because that you have that internal guidance system in you. And while you can surround yourself with the books and the vision board and all of the things, tap into your body and just see what's nudging you. Are you being called to just pick up that book and just read today? And let that be enough. Let that fill your bucket. Or are you being called to do all 5 things in the savers?
Right.
Or 6 savers? Let that be okay too. Just really, instead of just, I would say, like, focusing on what this checklist is, recognize the power of one, recognizing the power that less is more, and really go with what you're, setting that intention, but really going with what you feel like you have the energetic space for to really rise that vibration.
That's like this morning I was called to go to the gym. I just did that because there are some days that I'm just like,
I wasn't called to go to the gym. That's great. Well, and even with that, I would say too, like, there was a period that I joined the gym with my sister, and I was talking about this with my daughter the other night, because she's been sick over the past month, and I was talking about, like, how it's great to connect with others and kind of get in the neighborhood and do things, because you can kind of help inspire and encourage and motivate one another, but also, like, recognizing, like, she was at one level of endurance and fitness, and I was at a different level. But that drive in me, I also found like I wanted to do what my sister was doing. I didn't want to be a quitter or a failure or not appearing or being able to do all the things, right? So what I had to learn too is sometimes it's very important, not just sometimes, but I think it's very important to honor where you're at and know that this is a journey. This is not a destination. And just really recognizing where you're at, and that you're not running the same race. You're not running the same race, and not judging yourself, because that was at the core of that. That's what I was really doing. I was really judging myself and kind of looking at my own worthiness of, like, not being good enough if I wasn't doing the same thing. Now, she had years of experience on me, right. And that's, I find, in this entrepreneurial journey, we're all at different stages, so we can't measure our chapter by someone else's, chapter 20.
Keep your blinders on.
Yes, keep your eyes on your own paper. So I think through all of that, there's different practices, and there's a lot of things that can really, really help you. So whether you take away one thing or 10 things that, we're talking about, and Onnie is offering today, and the pillars of self-care is just, even if you just start with one thing and learning how to creating, as you mentioned, those habits, right. And mastering, and then moving to the next and adding on, and being able to apply that, not just in self-care, but in your business and in your personal life.
Right. Right. And one of the number one reasons why when I talk with women and they don't practice self-care, it is because they're not feeling good enough. They're not feeling like they are worthy enough to focus on. And so it starts in your mind.
What do you think that is? Where do you think that low self-worthiness comes from?
I think a lot, there's all different ways. I also advocate, like, take a break from social media. Because when you're constantly comparing yourself to those that are in your newsfeed, you're comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing just a little window of time in somebody else's life, and then it could make you, has that potential to make you feel horrible about your own life. And so taking that break from social media, and you had mentioned about not starting out the day looking at your newsfeed, but it comes from that. It comes from our different experiences throughout your life, whether they're traumatic or not, things you've witnessed, things that you've seen or been part of, all of these things. And we tend to hold on to those things that reinforce that belief. And so we disqualify the positive. We tend to not notice things that are going against that belief. And so first thing is identify, if you're feeling like you're not good enough, then start collecting that evidence that says otherwise, because chances are there's plenty there, but you're just not paying attention to it. And so becoming aware of all of those things in your life that show that you are good enough. So I feel like it comes from a lot of places, but you've learned that belief, and so you can certainly unlearn it.
That's powerful.
So that's one of the number one reasons women say that they don't practice self-care. That comes out. Usually it's if they say time. I don't have the time. But when you dig a little deeper, right, we focus on, we spend time, or we prioritize that which we think is important. And if you're not spending time on yourself, that says that belief is probably buried inside you. It's probably pretty ingrained. And so looking at that belief and start dismantling it and challenging it may be your first step.
Can you repeat that again? Look for evidence of all the things. I want to put that in the chat. Look for evidence of all the things that you've done in your life.
Exactly. But to start collecting that evidence, start collecting that evidence that goes against the belief, or that supports the new belief that you are good enough, that you are worthy, and that you are enough, more than enough. And so once you start collecting that evidence, you'll start shifting that belief, and your life will change.
I love that. So kind of the chat here, look for the evidence of all, oops.
I got to find out how you do this thing.
Looking for the evidence. I'm doing it from my phone, so that's why I keep looking down, because and once you enter it on the phone, there's an option in StreamYard you can show it. But look for the evidence of all the things that support the belief that you are worthy. So again, kind of like focusing on those positives and really becoming aware of the thoughts and the things that really, they are thoughts. Challenge your thoughts. Your thoughts create your beliefs.
Yes.
Right? That means
your beliefs form your thoughts. Your beliefs influence what you're thinking.
So by changing what you're thinking, by changing those things that you keep telling yourself, I always say, write it down, get it out of your head. This is what I share with my clients, to get it out of their head, write it on paper, and look at it and ask yourself, is this really true? What evidence do you have that these things that you're telling yourself that don't support the lifestyle that you want to create, the business that you want to create? I'm not worthy. I don't know enough. I don't have enough time. All of those things, really looking at it and getting, the reason I say put it on paper is because it gets it out of your head onto paper. And then you become that third party observer to look at it and then really question those beliefs, those thoughts, and ask yourself, well, what would you rather believe? What is, even if a little bit of shift, right? Even if we can't believe that I am healthy, I can still believe in the idea that being healthy is my birthright. I totally believe that God intended us to feel healthy, to feel abundant, to have prosperity. So starting from those places of things that you can believe, or you can believe into the feeling of you would like to have this, you would like to experience it, and that little shifts make huge impact over.
They do.
And just really rewiring the subconscious and those thoughts that are kind of running around on autopilot in our brain that we just really haven't examined before.
Right. You stop to question them because they're no longer serving you. They're not going to serve you to get you to where you want to go. So stop and becoming aware and then start doing that work to challenge them and change them, because you're going to be much happier going in that direction that you want to go.
And I think too, the other thing that, we started talking about mindfulness, and one of the practices that you say, like in the afternoon, of scheduling that time to sit down with a cup of tea. I think that is really worth exploring more of what you were talking about, tapping into your senses and diving back into the power of now. Mm-hmm. So automatically always have the practice or have the behavior of bracing, worrying about, thinking about all of the things that, are on that to-do list or going on with friends and are in our business. And, I need to do, that we're not fully present. So I like how you started to talk about that, of how do we really get present with now, and what are the benefits of doing that? Like, why is it important to do that?
Well, future thinking is anxiety. You start worrying about all, and again, that comes back to what you can control and what you can't control. You can't control what's going to happen in the future. I mean, the best way to invent or to predict the future is to invent it, right? I think that was actually a quote from the Miracle Morning. But, when it comes down to it, you're worrying about things that are in the future, and that's going to create a lot of anxiety and a lot of overwhelm. And so mindfulness, by practicing mindfulness, and it's a practice because you can't expect to do it the first time and be perfect at it. But it really is, it brings you back to the here and now by its nature. It gets your mind out of the future, instead of thinking about the past and regrets and all of this, it brings you to the future so that you clears your mind, so that you can think clearly and take action towards that direction that you want to go. And it grounds you.
So again, speaking back to the senses, what is it like if I'm sitting here with my bottle of water? How do I do that?
Okay,
so to give our audience practical step-by-step tips.
Okay, so an actual psychological grounding technique it's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're just seeing what is it that you see? You go through your senses. So that bottle of water, for example, what do you're seeing the purple bottle, you're seeing, the structure of it, the shape of it, the shininess of it. When you feel it, it's smooth. That's just the bottle. If you're going to drink it, you're going to feel the water touching your tongue, touching the, inside your mouth. You're going to taste it, even though water's not supposed to have a taste. Water does have a taste. And you're going, because obviously some people don't like the taste of it, and if you have fruit in it, can you feel that tingly of the lemon or whatever that fruit is? Really just tuning in to, the smell of it. Whether you pick the bottle up and you smell it, what is the smell of that metal, or I don't know if metal really has a smell, but the metal.
I think it does.
Okay. So the water, the smell of it, it kind of I'm thinking of a cup of wine, a glass of wine, and they do the tasting, right? You are bringing in all of your senses to that glass of wine. Same thing with water. Same thing with, food is a good place to start because you can experience it with all of your senses. I know one of the mindfulness techniques that I see often is with a raisin. And when they're teaching, in group therapy, we'll use a raisin to practice that mindfulness, because you can feel it, you can taste it, you can smell it, all of that, and you can suck on it, you can actually feel that raisin inside your mouth. And so food is a good place to start if you want to begin feeling what mindfulness feels like.
And the benefits, again, of actually implementing that mindfulness practice, what benefits
back in the future? Decreasing that anxiety, minimizing the anxiety that comes from.
What does that do on a chemical level?
I'm sorry?
How does that impact you on a chemical level?
You mentioned those feel-good chemicals, or the feel-good, those the endorphins and all of that. I mean, your mood is improved. those feel good chemicals are released, and the more you do that, the more you don't need to, meditate like the old school way with, in the lotus position. You can bring that, like that same calmness and grounding and just that same calmness to your activities throughout your day. Whether you're getting in the car and you put your seatbelt on and practice a few deep breaths and just feel, that contentment. Is that what you mean?
And I think, yeah, for sure. And if you haven't heard of it, the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle is an incredible book, and you can check it out on YouTube. I'll pop it up in the chat here just in a minute. But it really, really talks about the power of now. And that's something learning and reading about this book and going through my own meditation practices of recognizing how anxious my thoughts were and how easy still, I can find myself in moments where I'm future, thinking about all of the, getting on Facebook Live, making sure it's all prepped and doing all this thing before you spinning, and just recognizing it. And why I like this mantra is there's nothing going on, there's nothing serious going on right now. Everything is always working out for me, and some of holding on to these statements of intention, these affirmations to yourself help to, and find one that works for you, but it helps to bring you back into the presence of now. And really now is all we have. If you're thinking about yesterday, that is more leading into, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more leading into like depression or worried, because yesterday's gone. If you're thinking about tomorrow or an hour from now and worrying about that, that's anxiety because you're spinning on what is in. So practicing the presence of now, and I have a lake outside behind me, and I have ducks that are on the lake and geese, and I just love just to stand there for, even if it's just a minute, just to stand there and look out the window. And like you said, use all of those senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What can you feel? What do you smell? Like using all of your senses to bring you back into the power of now. Plus the ducks are a good reminder and resemblance to me of there's nothing serious going on here. And it's fascinating. My audience has heard me talk about these ducks many times, but it just reminds me of they're not worried. They're just swimming around playing, having fun. And really that's what's intended for us as well, is to be happy and joy and fun and pleasure and play in all of our senses. And a good way to check in, and if you're not feeling those things, not to beat up on yourself that you're not, but just to recognize where you're at and be mindful of that and shift back into the power of now. And adopting some of these things, whether it's just taking that minute to enjoy your tea or your bottle of water, to watch the animals outside, or just listen to the air conditioning vibrating, just to really center yourself and come back into the power of now. And the chemical effects that it has in you, because we're like one big ball of chemicals, and I want to release more of those good endorphins in my body versus the stress hormones in your body. Yes. So again, recognizing that power is yours. The power is yours. And those beliefs that aren't serving you, you really have the opportunity to recognize, what beliefs you even have going on. And then pick and choose the ones that you want to keep. And then like a bag of heavy luggage or rocks on your shoulder, unload all those things that don't serve you anymore. So I think we're about an hour here with Onnie. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience today, or how they can find you and learn more about the work that you do?
Yes. So self-care, the big takeaway here is it is not only okay to practice self-care, but it will be a game changer for you. Self-care is about giving the world the best of you instead of just what's left of you. And so you can find me. I am on Facebook, as I know you are too, because you're in Shannon's group, but on Facebook at Moms Without Capes. That's my Facebook group. It's about letting go of the superwoman mentality and learning that it is learning how to nurture yourself. Moms Without Capes. And I guess I will put that in the comment section of this video. And I thank you
Is it
again.
one word, Onnie?
It's MW Capes if you're doing, Moms Without Capes. No, 3 words.
Okay. I'll drop it in the chat here now.
Yeah, I guess I should have had it copied and pasted so that I could just put it right in there, but I didn't.
So we can drop it in after the link.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, so that is where you can find me, or Instagram, Onnie Michalsky. That's a long name too, but it's written right there. So I'm not really much on Instagram. Find me on Facebook. There's not an apostrophe after moms because we're all moms. So, but again, self-care is not just for moms. It is for everybody. You can benefit from it, and those around you can benefit as well. So thank you for having me, Shannon, and it's an honor.
And thank you for the love. I see people are giving us love heart showers. I love the love. We keep tuning in, and I believe Onnie has a free gift for you as well that we'll share after the broadcast. And can you tell us what that is?
I have a free list of self-care ideas. They are divided up in the 5 pillars. And so if you feel that you're struggling, or that one of the areas, that you notice, and how you would notice is, say, social, your relationships, if there's some area that you need to tend to more, my advice is to focus on one of those. But it's divided up, and it's completely free idea, or a complete list of ideas that take less than 20 minutes to do. You can do them right around your home, in or around your home, and they're free or close to it, because self-care, you don't need to pay lots of money to fill your bucket. So I will put a link to that as well in the comment section.
I think that's great too, to highlight that as well, is that there's so many things that you can do to really fill your bucket that don't cost any money. So you can put away those excuses, I can't afford to do it. Thank you for dropping that. She just dropped the link to her Facebook group, to Onnie's Facebook group. But again, there are many, many things. And, maybe just start there. Start with creating a list of things that you enjoy doing. And, I know for me, there was that point in time, I didn't even know what I enjoyed doing anymore. So something that helped me is really thinking back of what did I enjoy doing as a kid? Because you can probably tap into that vision pretty quickly of, did you like to read books? Did you like to ride your bicycle, climb trees, play ball out in the yard, those types of things, dance. I find dance, if I can just talk about a quick vibration rise, if I could just turn on some music and dance it out for, 3 or 4 minutes during that song, I feel so much better. Yeah. And that's a great tip to go Facebook Live to do that, to really move those thoughts of anxiousness or feelings of anxiousness into excitement and exhilaration. So I find that really works as well. And Onnie just shared, let me pop that up on the page.
Yeah, check and make sure I spelled it right.
There you go. So you can grab her list there of those self-care ideas. And then I'm also going to add a free bonus in the group for you as well in today's live stream, of a guide that I created when I first started my coaching business, all around burnout and how to create that new vision, that desired vision that you want for your life, your health, your wealth, your abundance, and your prosperity. So I'll throw that into the chat as well after our broadcast. But if you have any questions that Onnie and I can support you with, feel free. Let us know that you tuned in. So what is it? #replay. And let us know that you tuned in, and drop those questions in the chat, and we'll monitor those and get you some answers or some resources, support that you need to be able to just, again, move from that feelings of overwhelm, stress, anxiety, or edge of to feeling good. It's good to feel good, ladies. It's good to feel good. I just hope that you found this live stream today helpful. And I want to thank you, Onnie, so much for your time and pouring your love and your care and support into our group today. And again, check out Onnie for Onnie's group, Women Without Capes. Did I get it right?
Moms Without Capes.
Yes. Without Capes. Moms Without Capes. We all grew up wanting to be Superwoman, but woman needs to fill her bucket first. So I thank you so much for being with us today, and we will talk with you all soon.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Onnie.
Shannon.